Hello, everybody. Welcome to this digital series production for Geneva Peace Week. We're from BBC Media Action, and this session is on our work applying inoculation theory to social behaviour change communication to build people's resilience to mis and disinformation. My name is Alistair Stewart. I'm a senior researcher and senior advisor based in our London HQ. And I'm joined by my two colleagues, Sofiane and Maurice. Sofiane, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am the North Africa Research Manager, and I'm based in Tunisia office for BBC Media Action. Maurice.
Hi, my name is Maurice Saeq. I'm a training manager in North Africa office based in Tunisia.
Thanks, Maurice. We're going to tell you just briefly about BBC Media Action and what we do, and then Sofiane and Maurice will talk you through the work we've been doing in Tunisia around inoculation theory. So BBC Media Action is the BBC's international development charity. We work in over 22 countries around the world, supporting people to have access to accurate, trusted and balanced information, and we support independent media in the countries where we work. We use media and communication to support development interventions across a range of different thematic areas, from governance and rights work to health, sexual reproductive health rights, humanitarian response and work on gender, and underpinning all of that is our work on media development. One of the big issues that we've been tackling as an organisation for many years is the spread of mis and disinformation. And 2 years ago, we developed a new organisational approach on tackling mis and disinformation, drawing on our organisational expertise and experience in research, capacity strengthening, production of content, and also outreach work to audiences. Within that strategy, we set out a number of different strands of work to tackle mis and disinformation. But one of the ideas that we were particularly interested in at that time was the application of something called inoculation theory. So what is inoculation theory? Basically, it's a pre-bunking approach, which is designed to build people's resilience to mis and disinformation before they encounter it in real life. So the theory originates from the work of a social psychologist called William Maguire in the 1960s, who sought to develop what he called a psychological vaccine for being brainwashed. In more recent years, a team from the University of Cambridge have been developing inoculation theory, developing it into pre-bunking media content, which can help to tackle mis and disinformation. So they've done this in a variety of ways, using online games, but also short video content. So inoculation theory, it seeks to reduce the probability that someone is going to be persuaded by misinformation by warning them about the ways in which mis or disinformation may try to manipulate them, and providing them with an example of what they call a weakened dose of that misinformation, and then refuting that misinformation, so explaining why it's wrong and how it's manipulative. And the research that the team at the University of Cambridge have done shows that people who are exposed to this kind of content, they build resilience to misleading information, and that includes people across the political spectrum. So it's easy to describe this, but I thought we would play you an example of this from the Cambridge work, just so you can get a proper sense of it.
You might think about skipping this ad. Don't. What happens next will make you tear up. Wait, you're still here? I mean, great, looks like the trick worked. You see, when watching videos or browsing online, you are likely to encounter content that is loaded with emotional language, and with good reason. Playing into emotions, especially negative ones, such as fear, anger, or contempt, is a trick to get you to pay attention to something when you otherwise wouldn't. It's likely that's a big reason why you're still watching this ad is because you were lured in by our use of emotional language in the very first sentence. Research has shown that expressing emotion is key for the spread of moral and especially political ideas in social networks. So let's say when you're writing a headline and you're trying your hardest to manipulate your readers to click, one thing you can do is pepper your headlines with a bunch of emotionally charged words. Call it a horrific accident instead of a serious one, a disgusting ruling instead of a disagreeable one, or a heartbreaking twist of fate instead of an unfortunate coincidence. That way, you're likely to reach more people and influence their reactions. So let's see how this plays out in real life. Let's take the following headline from the movie Anchorman. No emotional manipulation at play here, just to the point, no-nonsense coverage of such an important event in history. This headline, on the other hand, see what they did there? The writer used an emotionally charged word like revolting to describe a whole group of people. Are mutes people? Oh well, you get the point. They're fear-mongering. So whenever you feel outraged or angry, remember, someone may be pulling your strings. Don't be manipulated. Truth Labs, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
So that's just one example of the inoculation theory content that the University of Cambridge team have developed, and we've been thinking about how we can apply that to the North Africa context. Before we get more into that, I wanted to hand over to Sofiane, who's going to tell you a little bit about research we've been doing to better understand mis and disinformation in North Africa.
Thank you, Alistair. As a part of our response to mis and disinformation, we've conducted research across several countries, especially in North Africa, that is Tunisia, Algeria, and Libya, but we also did in Myanmar. The research we did was a nationwide research, mixed research, qualitative and quantitative, aimed to better understand people's experience of mis and disinformation. If you're looking at the example of Tunisia, we've conducted a desk research. We've also conducted 36 in-depth interviews and a nationwide survey with around 2,000 respondents. This, in a way, gave us a couple of insights into Tunisians' experience of mis and disinformation. We've noted that there is a clear prevalence of false or misleading information on social media in Tunisia. 96% of respondents reported having encountered mis or disinformation at some point. We've also noted that the population are highly concerned, that is 70%, they're concerned about the level of false and misleading information, and especially when it comes around the election. 76% they were quite concerned. However, on the other hand, many respondents do not really feel personally susceptible to it. They reported in a way, while they reported widely, that they are confident in their ability to assess and identify the accuracy and mis and disinformation. That is 76% of the Tunisian, in a way, felt confident in their ability. However, 45% admitted that they had previously shared content online that later turned out to be false or inaccurate. This is, of course, means that there is a serious issue with many people at risk and perhaps overconfidence about their own level of vulnerability. And this research, in a way, is intended, in a way, to feed in how we intervene, and especially in the context of trialing the inoculation theory in a North African context. My colleague Maurice, in a way, will describe better how this research and how we're trying to use inoculation theory, in a way, as a tool to counter mis and disinformation in Tunisia.
Thank you, Soufiane. As Soufiane mentioned, the original content was more suitable for global North audiences, maybe quite American in terms of the rhythm, of the colors, the speed, and the references. We wanted to see whether it would work in North African context. The university team have supported us with the guidance on how to follow the core principles of their approach. We discussed that with the production team because we want to follow the structure fairly precisely, but also we wanted to make it more relevant to North African audiences. At the moment, we're testing the content, the inoculation video, with the target audiences in Tunisia to get their feedback and to test whether the content is relatable, understandable, and conveying the intended information to the audience. Based on the feedback, we will adjust the content and then we will share it with our media partners, our local media partners, maybe CSOs, stakeholders in Tunisia. Based on the feedback also, we might adapt or create a couple of other versions of these videos or inoculation content in general. The plan is to roll this content out ahead of the coming election in December. I think now we can watch the first draft of the adopted video, inoculation video.
نتصورك تحب تزابي هالإعلان. استنى، اللي جاي من بعد باش يخليك تبكي وتهبطهم حيار. لحظة، ما زلت تتبع في الحكاية؟ هاي يظهر لي الخطة خطفت. وقت اللي تبدأ تتفرج على الفيديوهات ومن باجة لباجة على الانترنت، أكيد باش يعرضك محتوى فيه ضربين لغة عاطفية ويظهر الكلام بكل لوجيك. هذا قايم على التلاعب بمشاعر الناس، خاصة كي هبط الكبي والدمار. الإحساس بالخوف والغش والحجرة يخليك تركز مع حاجات انت ما كنتش مركز معاها كان ما عرضوكش. هذاك علاش انت مثلا ما زلت قاعد تتفرج في الفيديو هذا، خاطر أثرت فيك لغتنا العاطفية من الضربة الأولى. برشا بحوث أثبتت اللي التعبير بالعاطفة يسهل نشر أفكار تتبنى نظرة أخلاقية معينة ولا أهداف سياسية مبطنة، خاصة على وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. هذاك علاش كي نخمو في عنوان يجلب أكبر عدد من الناس، أسهل حاجة نلعبوا على الكلمات والتعابير اللي فيها شحنة عاطفية. كي تكتب حادث فظيع يكون وقعه أكبر من حادث خطير، ولا قرار مقزز في عوض قرار جائر، ولا تكتب فاجعة في بلاصة حادثة عابرة. استعمال هالأسلوب وهالتعابير المشحونة بالعاطفة يمس أكبر عدد ممكن من الناس وينجم يأثر على طريقة تفاعلهم.
Given that we are trialing a new approach in North Africa, we recognize that there is a need for rigorous research to assess the efficacy of the intervention in Tunisia. In this sense, BBC Media Action remained in contact and in collaboration with the University of Cambridge to set up an online experimental research to assess the efficacy of the content that you are producing and disseminating in Tunisia. This will include, the recruitment online of over 1,500 participants. The participants, they will be assigned randomly to watch either the inoculation video or a control video. After that, they will be presented with a series of post-exposure stimuli, examples of misinformation using misleading techniques, as well as accurate information to test how well they can recognize the manipulation techniques. Also, they'll be asked about their level of confidence in these techniques and how likely they'd be to share the content. So where the study is being conducted currently and from now till mid-November, and we expect initial results at the end of November and aim to publish on the study early next year.
Great, thanks, Sofiane. And then just to give everyone a kind of, I guess, a bit of a view about where we're hoping to take this work next. So we're going to continue this pilot of inoculation theory in North Africa, but we're also looking at other contexts where BBC Media Action works, where we might be able to replicate this kind of pilot. We're doing lots of further research about how mis and disinformation affects people in different contexts. And using that to help us think about what type of media interventions we might want to try, and evaluating what works to build resilience to mis and disinformation in different contexts. We're also about to publish guidance on how practitioners can use inoculation theory. So that's guidance we're publishing with the University of Cambridge and Google Jigsaw, which hopefully will be useful for lots of other organizations who might want to consider doing this kind of work. And then we're also interested in developing ideas around how we can use the principles of inoculation theory, but applied to other media formats. So, for example, how do you create audio content that could be shared in WhatsApp groups that's based on inoculation theory? Or can you embed the principles of inoculation theory into longer term programming, such as radio dramas or television dramas? So that's the kind of direction of travel for this work. We're excited to do it. It's one of the approaches to tackling misinformation that seems to have the strongest evidence base, but we're trying to address those challenges of how you scale the approach and how you use it in various different countries and contexts. We'll put up some information about how you can read more about this work or get in touch with any of us if you'd like to follow up. And thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the session.